Well, for more now on the U.S. Vice President's trip to Israel, as well as Abbas's trip to the EU, let's bring in Hanan Ashrawi in Ramallah. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. You are a Palestinian politician and a member of the executive committee for the PLO. We just heard there Maeve speaking about President Abbas, who is now in Brussels, basically saying again that he no longer wants to negotiate with the United States at all. Will the EU be a strong enough partner to make something change when it comes to the Middle East peace process?
Well, it depends on the EU itself, because personally the Palestinians have always believed that the American monopoly on the peace process, with its blind support for Israel and now its collusion with Israel to undermine the very foundations of peace, that these have been entirely detrimental to any success in peacemaking. And we've always called on the Europeans not just to sign the checks the way the Americans wanted them to do, but to play a proactive role in peacemaking, a political role that is commensurate with the tremendous amounts of funding and partnership agreements and trade that they have with Israel, that they can play an effective role. We just need to get them to believe in themselves a bit more. This issue is very important to us because the EU is committed to international law and has a clear policy about the 67 borders, two-state solutions, Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine as well. And therefore, they are bound by an EU and overall strategy that should guide the principles and the efforts to achieve peace. So now we are approaching the EU in order to translate their policies, their positions into action, and to make a difference before the US and Israel succeed in destroying the chances of peace forever in this region.
Well, I guess let me flip around the question the other way. We had Vice President Pence, who is in Israel, speaking earlier today, saying we are at the dawn of a new era of renewed discussions. Things are moving forward on our end. What's your response to that?
I don't know whether we can honor that with a serious response. I think Vice President Pence is dealing with an alternative reality or a fictional, fictitious reality that has nothing to do with the real world. They have just finished destroying the chances of peace. They have taken Jerusalem off the table, single-handedly preempting the outcome of the most basic issue of permanent status negotiations. They have also blackmailed, threatened, and coerced the Palestinian side in order to get them to accept this position. And they have also undermined the standing of the Palestinian refugees, again by withholding funds, and now withholding funds not just from UNRWA but also food assistance from the refugees. They have refused to accept the 67 boundaries. They have refused to state clearly that settlements are illegal and destroy the two-state solution. So they have preempted everything. They have single-handedly violated every single requirement of peace. And now he says peace is closer. It has never been further away,
and yet,
and
Hanan,
the U.S. has never been less credible.
And yet here we are in this stalemate situation where we have the Palestinians who canceled all their planned meetings with Mike Pence following the declaration on Jerusalem. The anger from the Palestinians is understandable, but as one French official said recently, how will you ever get the U.S. to change its position, which is arguably necessary, without sitting down and talking about it?
Look, we've been talking about this for a long time. We have written American positions from previous administrations that this administration has reneged on. It's not a question of not talking. We've had more than 22 meetings with this administration. President Abbas and President Trump have had several meetings on these issues. The question is not our powers of persuasion. The question is, would the U.S. be committed to play an even-handed role, to respect international law, to respect their previous commitments? Or are they reneging on everything now and violating the requirements of peace, which is what happened. Now here you have Vice President Pence coming here. There were no scheduled meetings, by the way, that we rejected. It's the churches, the Christians, all the people whom he wanted to meet, who refused to meet with him, because we all thought that he is violating even the biblical scripture, because he is a biblical literalist and a Tea Party member and an extreme evangelical absolutist. So the question is not that. The question is that he has come here to declare his loyalty to Israel. He has come with the laurels of victory, that he has delivered Jerusalem to Israel. And at the same time, I think that thinking that by doing that he is going to achieve peace just shows that a major and serious disconnect with reality. So no, we don't want to convince him. This man acts on the basis of faith, ideology, and divine will. We are here talking about legality and law and justice, and a just peace that is achievable on the basis of international law, international humanitarian law, and the will of humanity, not divine intervention. So it seems to me right now that it is disingenuous to say that this trip, this visit, will serve the cause of peace. He has heard this very clearly from the Jordanian King Abdullah, from the Egyptian President Sisi. I don't think he has heard it from all these Arab people who were demonstrating, the public in Jordan, in Egypt, in Palestine. We have a strike tomorrow also against his visit because they understand the danger inherent in such extreme positions that would lead the whole region to another cycle of violence and extremism.
So what are your thoughts? What is the way out? And is there any way these negotiations can be rescued? And if so, under what circumstances concretely?
Yes. The question is not negotiations. There hasn't been any since this administration came to power. We haven't had negotiations because they keep talking about down the road they're going to have a plan, they're going to present an image. They haven't done anything at all except deliver a priori to Israel everything it wanted. So it's not a question of wanting negotiations because we've been negotiating since 1991 while Israel bought more time to create more facts unilaterally. So what we need now is international intervention. We need to hold Israel accountable for all its violations. We need to go to the ICC. We need to get protection for the Palestinians. We need the UN to do that. We need to go to the international community to get an initiative to end this occupation and enable us to build our Palestinian state in freedom and dignity, to exercise our right to self-determination. This is where we're heading. France decided that it is going to sponsor an international conference, and it did. Israel scuttled it. Israel refused to cooperate. We were promised at that time that France would recognize Palestine should Israel undermine its efforts to start this peace process. And of course, Israel not only undermined it, but it totally destroyed the European or the French role. We believe now is the time to exhibit the will internationally, and we are willing to cooperate, whether with any format, whether it is the P5+1+, or whether it's the UN sponsorship, or whether it is a new French initiative or whatever. We are willing to cooperate with whoever believes that it can play a role to bring about the end of the occupation within a specified time frame and with very concrete steps to end this occupation and build Palestinian statehood. Otherwise, we all remain hostage to this unholy alliance between the extremists and the racists and the hardliners and the populists in the US and in Israel, and the Palestinians will continue to pay the price.
Hanan Ashrawi, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Hanan Ashrawi, they're speaking from Ramallah, a member of the Executive Committee for the PLO. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Jeannie.